You or someone you know may be going through a season of transition right now, and you're probably experiencing a lot of challenges. But in this video, I want to detail the top 5 benefits that are also brought about by the Lord in our season of transition. One way or the other, you are going to get out of a season of transition differently than when you entered. And it's really your choice to embrace the transition and what God's doing in it, or to succumb to the negative aspects, the challenges that you face, and come out less than what God really intended you to learn and to really become through the season of transition. So you're not going to avoid transition. It's going to happen, but it's your choice as you go through it and as you exit out of it, what you really learn and how you really change. And so knowing that, I figure let's really look at the beneficial factors here of transition and really focus on those. The first one and the most primary one, I think, is that you begin to develop an inner life focus rather than an outward focus. You don't focus so much now on all of the outward activities because usually in seasons of transition, your outward circumstances are a little less favorable than what you would like. So if you get all caught up in the natural aspects of what most people would determine a successful life to look like, you're going to probably be very disappointed during these seasons of transition. But these are great times to look inwardly and to really be able to see your success based upon your life in God and what He says about you rather than just what you're doing in the world. Samuel, 1 Samuel chapter 16, verse 7, really lays it out well. It says, "But the Lord said to Samuel, do not look at his appearance or at the height of his stature, because I have rejected him. For God does not see as man sees, since man looks at outward appearance, but the Lord looks at the heart." And so that's our task in this season, is to not look based upon outward appearance of what we're doing and what we're accomplishing, but look at our heart. It's a beautiful season to really step back and do that. Another beautiful thing that's very beneficial about a season of transition is the hope and anticipation that you have for what's to come. This is probably my favorite part. I'm a visionary type of person, and so I really enjoy dreaming and thinking about what God's about to do, how He's about to move. And what I've found is that these seasons can be filled with many, many experiences of hope and anticipation and just getting really excited. Now, I tend to do that because I really believe that God has good things for me and for my family to come. Jeremiah chapter 29, verse 11, it says, "For I know the plans that I have for you, declares the Lord, plans for welfare and not for calamity, to give you a future and a hope." I've went through a lot in my life, and I've gotten to the point now where I really believe that, and I take that promise for myself. Now, if you don't, this hope and anticipation that I'm describing will probably look a lot more like anxiety and fear, because if we don't believe that God has the best in store for us, then we're going to always have this kind of thought process that, oh no, this could be really bad what we're about to enter into. And so a great thing to do in this season is to really reflect on who God is and the way He feels about you and looks upon you as His child. When we begin to realign with our identity, when we begin to really see the way that God views us, we can have confidence that whatever we're going into, the next step, we can have hope, we can have anticipation, because it's going to be a beautiful thing that God brings about. Another thing to consider is this is a beautiful time to begin to appreciate and reminisce about the previous season that you're transitioning out of. If you're anything like me, I get caught up a lot in the day-to-day and get really involved and immersed in whatever season I'm in. And so when that happens, you often don't take the time to reflect and really appreciate what God has done or is doing in that season. So when you're entering into a time of transition, a season of liminality, you have a new opportunity to look back at the relationships, to look back at the ministry that was accomplished, to look back at all that God did in that previous season, and to begin to really appreciate it. This is an important thing to do. You don't want to skip this step, because part of the new season that you're entering into is being able to have gratitude about the season that you are just exiting out of. Another thing that you're going to experience is simplicity. Now, depending on what type of person you are, simplicity might sound like a really great thing or a really negative thing. My hope right now is to motivate you to believe that simplicity is actually a really great thing, especially for this season of life. When you're busy with the day to day, when you're busy and immersed with all these different tasks in a season where you're just in the heart of it, it's very difficult to step out and to be able to kind of get that 50,000-foot view. This is what simplicity does. It brings about a slower pace of life that we have during a season of transition, and it allows us to step back a little bit and be able to get the grand view of what's happening and what God is doing. So we don't want to run from simplicity. We don't want to consider it as just this boring season of monotony. No, this is a beautiful time that leads me to the next point here, and our final one is a time of reflection. This is probably the most beneficial point that I'm going to make here. This is a time in your season of transition where you get to step back and really evaluate your life. You get to evaluate what has been. You get to evaluate and discern what you feel like God's leading you into. And so I really would encourage you, if you find yourself in this season of transition, to schedule in times, like be really intentional with this, of scheduling in times for simply reflecting. Go on a hike, go on a retreat, whatever it is that gets you out of the challenges and kind of craziness of life, to be able to reflect, because God wants to cement truths that he's been teaching you through that previous season. Now is the time to really get those cemented and learned, so that as you're going into this next season, you're coming with that new understanding and revelation that God has now walked you through. And this is also a time to really be able to let God have full control. You know, as we get into whatever season of life we're in, there begins to be a routine, and we just kind of get into a pace of life. That's not a bad thing. But one of the beautiful things, and one of the areas that you need to reflect on in your season of transition, is what God's about to do. And it's a beautiful time to just re-put your life on the altar and just fully rely on him to have control of your life and to do with you whatever he wants. It's a great kind of litmus test of who you're really devoted to. Because if you're devoted to yourself, to your own success, to what's comfortable, you're not going to enjoy seasons of transition. You're probably not going to enjoy the season he's going to be bringing you into either. But if we can really put ourselves where we're meant to be, on the altar before the Lord, and allow him to use this season to really mold and shape us and prepare us for what he has in this upcoming season, I guarantee you, you will not be disappointed.